Peter Murrell oversaw and signed off the SNP receiving £6 million in public funds, raising fears he pilfered taxpayers' cash. Documents seen by the Scottish Sun show the jailed ex-Nats chief executive asking when thousands of pounds of public cash would land in the party's bank accounts. The emails show Murrell discussed payment of the Policy Development Grant, state funding given to parties for research and drafting manifesto policies, with the Electoral Commission in 2022. He was embezzling thousands of pounds from the SNP at the time. Nicola Sturgeon's disgraced husband states in one email sent on the 30th of May 2022, "Just checking in to make sure all is well with our application and audit certificate. I assume any payment of grant will be next month now, or perhaps July." The audited statements for Murrell's submission to the Commission were done by the Chartered Accountants, Johnston Carmichael, who also missed his embezzlement in their audits of the SNP's annual accounts. And police said on Monday that Murrell had offended while carefully trying to hide his criminality with false receipts and accounting. The SNP's opponents demanded answers from First Minister John Swinney. Scottish Tory leader Russell Findlay said he claims that the SNP is the victim of this crime, but if taxpayers' money was also stolen, then he must come clean. No more cover-ups. The latest development only adds to a long and growing list of unanswered questions. Meanwhile, Scottish Labour Deputy Leader Jackie Baillie said John Swinney was quick to dismiss the idea that public money was stolen, but these revelations cast doubt on this. He should provide reassurance people need by publishing the party's audit certificates and submissions to the Electoral Commission from this time. And Scottish Lib Dem MSP Willie Rennie added, "These are very concerning reports and they should be investigated in full." In total, Murrell controlled the spending of £2.7 million in the grant money from the Commission, on top of £3.5 million from MPs and MSPs asked to support the cost of running the party. But £2.6 million from the House of Commons in so-called short money, funding given to parties to help pay for the work of being in Parliament, would not have been available to the crook. The spending of this cash is strictly regulated and controlled by parliamentary authorities. At FMQs, Mr Swinney told MSPs that in order to receive the cash from the Electoral Commission, the SNP would have needed to send an audited report on where the money was spent.
I want to reassure Parliament that in order to receive funding, a party needs to apply to the Electoral Commission outlining the work that will be done in the forthcoming year and submit an audited report to the Electoral Commission outlining what grant funding has been spent upon, and it's only on receipt of the audited report that the final payment of the grant is made by the Electoral Commission. So that confirms the point that I made to Parliament on Tuesday, that this is SNP supporters' money that has been embezzled and not public money.
But the emails released under Freedom of Information laws show Murrell controlled the whole process within the SNP headquarters. In the 2 days prior to Murrell's email inquiring as to when the Commission cash would land, he had spent more than £600 on 2 high-end Oral-B toothbrushes. One SNP source said Murrell was the only person at the party's HQ who dealt with the receipt of public money from the Commission. The insider said Peter Murrell handled all paperwork and all audit work, meaning only he knew what was being claimed as being spent using public funds. Other staff had no knowledge of how much money the party was receiving in public funds, when the money was received and what it was spent on. Alex Neil, the former SNP Health Secretary, said, "Why is the Electoral Commission not holding an inquiry to find out if public money has been stolen? If it all goes into one pot, what are they doing to make sure public money was not used?" Mr Swinney was asked how he could be certain no taxpayer money was stolen from the SNP bank accounts, given Murrell's proven history of falsifying key documents. He said he was happy that applications had gone through all of the necessary accounting processes. Asked if Murrell could have falsified receipts and invoices to steal public funds, Mr Swinney replied, "I'm satisfied that has not been the case." The First Minister was also quizzed about which cheques Miss Sturgeon had made when she previously gave assurances that there were no issues with the party's finances. He said, "I don't know all of the conversations that took place, but at the heart of this case is a very simple point. There was a betrayal of trust." An Electoral Commission spokeswoman said they did not believe there was any misuse of public development grant funds. She said the SNP received policy development grants as set out in law. Parties have to report on their use of the grant and have that grant expenditure independently audited. The Commission checks carefully that the grant is spent correctly. The SNP have provided those audits, we have checked them, and we have seen no evidence of misuse of policy development grant funds. If there is evidence of any misuse, the Commission will take appropriate action to safeguard public money. And the lawyer hired by Nicola Sturgeon amid the SNP fraud scandal previously branded her a master of spin and questioned her honesty. Amar Anwar savaged the then First Minister while acting for COVID-bereaved families. He said her image of sincerity had been shattered. Anwar's blistering statement about the COVID inquiry questioned whether the police probe into SNP finances and the Alex Salmond investigation had played a part in senior Nats wiping their WhatsApp messages. He said in January 2024, "No one has dared to ask what bearing the trial of Alex Salmond or Operation Branchform had on the deletion of WhatsApp, but the bereaved expect answers," and he alluded to fiercely loyal nationalists who tried to suppress SNP scandals under a Sturgeon-era policy critics dubbed "wheesht for independence."